Probably the most familiar apostate to the New Testament is Judas Iscariot. Nobody's naming their kid Judas because of what he did to our Lord. The ultimate deceiver, self-deceived, led by Satan, but when he entered in with Jesus, it's most likely, there's no reason we have to believe in the Bible that he himself came in with a dastardly desire to overthrow Jesus and deliver him to be crucified. Most likely what happened is he followed Jesus, having been picked by Jesus, though Jesus said he was a son of perdition from the beginning, because Jesus knew what he wanted to do with that guy at the end. But Judas, remember, when Jesus on the final night, as Judas was around the room at the Last Supper with all the rest of the disciples, and Jesus said, "One of you will betray me," none of them stopped and looked down the end of the table and said, "Yeah, we know who that is. We've had our eye on him all along." All of them said, "Lord, is it me?" They thought that they were more capable of utterly denying Jesus than Judas was, which means he was a phenomenal pretender. There was a point in Judas's life towards the end when it became very clear that the false hopes and the expectation he had put upon Jesus, not for the salvation of his soul, but for the messianic deliverance of blessings that he hoped to get from Jesus, were going to be disappointed. And Judas, in a moment where he looked at a woman worshiping Christ and lavishing upon him all the wealth and all her joy and all her fears and all her tears stored up, given to Christ, he looked at the worship of Christ and out loud in an unguarded moment said, "What a waste." It was at that very moment that Jesus turned and rebuked him, and Judas decided from that moment, "I will betray Jesus," and Satan entered into his heart. What was fascinating about that moment is that nobody pegged Judas to be the obstacle to Jesus' ministry, as well as the villain in the story who would ultimately hand the Son of God over to his enemies. What's the point? Apostasy isn't always obvious in the person that you're looking at and talking to until they do something that feels so dastardly, so devious, in which they depart from Christ. And you probably know people like this who've walked away from the faith. The Bible only has one category for them: unredeemable. They are the apostates, not true believers who've lost their salvation, but make believers who pretended to be saved. Let's make sure you're not one of those.